The Sony A6700 is an incredible APS-C camera, but is it worth upgrading from your current Sony 6000 series? Well, in this video, I'll share my personal experience and explain why I made the switch from the 6400 to the 6700. So if you're curious whether you should be upgrading to this camera, this is the video for you. If you're new, hello, my name is Dimitrios and I create videos on drones, photography and everything between. Now, only 3% of you are subscribed to this channel, so if you are new, consider subscribing. I've already made playlists on the DJI Air 3 and the DJI Vata 2, and you can check that out up here somewhere. However, after recently buying the 6700, I think it's time that I start making a series on photography, as I mention this all the time. So before I dive in and we start talking about the Sony 6700, let me know what camera lenses you have in the comment section down below. Now, I'm assuming if you have some interest in this camera and you're considering upgrading, you probably want to know some of the specs. Camera is about a year old now. However, this is what swayed me to get this camera over anything else. It has a 26 megapixel sensor. It's an APS-C camera with a back illuminated sensor. It has a Bion X AI processing unit for enhanced subject tracking and real-time autofocus. 6K oversampling, essentially is just going to have better 4K video. Can record up to 4K 120, in-body 5-axis stabilization, 10-bit 422 color, mechanical and electronic shutter. I don't know if this is such an important factor here, but no one really mentions the weight. The camera weighs 493 grams, including the battery and the memory card, and it uses UHS 2 compliant SD cards, and ideally you want a V60 or higher. This camera also has better ergonomics with a bigger battery grip, lightweight magnesium alloy chassis, articulating screen. It has the Sony's newer interface. As for ports, it has a micro HDMI, headphone jack, audio in, and USB-C with power delivery. It also has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and some customizable buttons. If you want to pick up this camera, as it is a year old now, the body only is around $1,400 US, and it does come with a couple of kit lens options. You have either the 16 to 50, and together this is around $1,500 US, or you have the 18 to 135, and this is the one I will recommend because it's so versatile, and together this is around $1,800 US. Now, comparing this to the Sony A6400, these are the reasons as to why I upgraded to this camera. Firstly, you have the mode dial here from photo to video. It makes things a lot quicker to switch to. It has all these AI tracking features, so it does help with better autofocus detection. And these are human, animal, bird, insect, car, train, and airplane. It has the in-body stabilization, so as someone who's more interested in doing more video, this is really handy. It also has 10-bit recording now, so if I want to shoot an S-Log3 and color grade my own footage, I now have that ability with this camera. Or you could use S-Cinetone if you want to save yourself some time in post-processing, and this is something that I've been currently doing. I like the fact that it has a bigger grip compared to 6400. It also has a larger buffer, so whenever I'm panning cars, I don't have to wait for the camera to empty out its buffer before I can start shooting again. It's a lot bigger here on this camera. I also like the fact that I can now use my smartphone to connect to the 6700 and use it for remote shooting, whether I'm either taking photo or video. And the fact that it can download the photos straight to my phone as well, that's also a plus. The other great thing is that the 6700 can now render slow motion videos within camera and I don't have to do anything in post. And lastly, it has Sony's new menu system. These are probably the reasons that I upgraded compared to the 6400. Now, what are some of the pros with the camera? Well, as I mentioned earlier, you have these modes here, the photo, video, and it's easier to switch between them, especially when it comes to the preset modes 1, 2, and 3. And you can save this within each photo, video, and SAQ mode. So instead of having to fumbling around and keep changing settings, shutter speed and aperture and ISO, whatever settings I use the most, I can save these under one of these items here, and then I can just carry on shooting. So if I'm panning cars, I can have it in mode 1, for example. If I'm doing street photography and want to capture people, then I can switch this to a second mode and save it as a preset. The same goes for video. If I'm recording in 30 frames per second, I can save this under video mode under 1. And if I want to shoot some B-roll and I want to shoot at 60 frames per second, I can save this to mode 2 and so forth. That makes it so handy when you're out and about instead of having to fumble around with settings. Also, the new menu system is great. It's a lot better than the Sony A6400. If you already own a Sony A6000 series camera, and you probably know what I'm talking about, the menu isn't the greatest. After a while, you do get used to it. However, the 6700, this new Sony menu system, is a lot easier to use and a lot quicker to navigate as well. The other great thing is this articulating screen. When I was trying to shoot portraits, I always had to tilt my head in order to find out whether I was composing my shot properly. Now I don't have to worry so much. I can just use the articulating screen to twist and swivel and able to be comfortable when I'm shooting, especially if you're trying to get low to the ground when trying to take a photo in portrait mode. Having the bigger batteries is also a plus. It just means I can shoot photo and video for longer compared to the 6400. Again, if you already have this camera, you probably know what I'm talking about, where it just doesn't last as long and you have to buy extra batteries and you have to be charging continuously, especially if you're doing events like car events and you just want to be shooting all day. The other great thing here is the comfort of the camera. Just because of the bigger batteries, it gives you the bigger grip. It's a lot more comfortable to hold. Now, what are some of the downsides with this camera? Well, I did wish it had dual memory card slot, but it only has the one. So if you are thinking about it, not a big downside. However, if you're someone that wanted to shoot weddings, for instance, then this is probably not the camera, because at the end of the day, if something did ever happen to the camera or the SD card and you lost those photos of the wedding you were taking, well, how are you going to explain that to the couple? So this is, you could probably be fine as a second shooter. That will be completely fine, but not as a main photographer. I have been asked before and it's just been, I just don't like weddings in general anyway. But yeah, I wish it had that, but doesn't. So it's a single SD card slot, but it's not the end of the world for what I do. Now, in order to maximize the 4K 120, you actually do need a more expensive SD card. You need a V90 card. So if you have a V60, it's fine. It will do everything in V60, but you can't utilize that 4K 120 unless you have a V90 card. I don't know if that's a downside or it's just me being a plum and buying the wrong card, but I haven't really shot a 4K 120 because it just takes up so much storage. The other thing here is it doesn't have a built-in flash. This is something the 6400 does have, the 6700 doesn't have. Not that this is a big downside for me because I don't do much flash photography anyway, but if something that you want to do, then it's definitely a downside because you're going to have to buy a separate flash. Now, this is a weird downside here because it's about the articulating screen. But for instance, if I did have it on a tripod and I was filming myself, if it was at an angle or slightly facing down and I just tilted it slightly like this, it automatically flips it reverse, and then I can't see myself as it's upside down. So you have to have it fully locked in order to flip the screen. I wish they could have an update to fix that, but yeah, that's a bit of a weird one for me, but that is a bit of a downside. And lastly, again, it has a micro HDMI port, and a lot of people do complain about that port because it breaks easily, especially if they're trying to do more professional stuff and they'd rather have a full HDMI port. This is a problem that I haven't experienced yet because I haven't really shot much video with the micro HDMI port. I have used it with a monitor, but I haven't had any issues because I have this small rig cage here. It has a little adapter here to help protect that from happening. So they have some small rig. I've thought about that, and then we'll come over to some accessories now. Now, if you're looking at the Sony A6700 for video, you can build this out to be a nice little rig to shoot videos with. Now, what you're seeing on screen now is the rig that I use to help shoot a hotel reel, and having the Portkeys monitor did make things a lot easier, and just having this cage as well just to attach microphone, handles, and even that little attachment to help protect the HDMI port was all fantastic. It has the built-in Allen key, and they've even thought about the battery removal by having this little adapter here so you can take the battery out as well, but that's super handy. What I will do is I will link everything in the description box down below. And if you're interested in knowing more about any of these accessories, just let me know in the comment section down below. The one thing that I will recommend if you don't want to go full blown is if you are buying this camera, is definitely pick up extra batteries. And these are the ones I got from K&F. These are pretty affordable. Comes with a charger and 2 batteries, and it's really great and handy. I haven't had any issues with them compared to the official one either. So to conclude, is the Sony A6700 worth the upgrade? Well, if you're only wanting to shoot photo, then it's not really necessary to go and buy this camera. Even though the AI features are nice, I just don't see it warranting the cost. You'll be fine. I've captured fast moving cars with the 6400, no problem, with a kit lens even. So I don't think it's gonna warrant the cost. However, if you're looking to do more video work, more professional video work, then yes, I'm gonna say it is a good idea to upgrade to the Sony A6700 because it has a lot more features to help you shoot that video. So for instance, the 10-bit color, that's gonna be great, especially when it comes to color grading footage. The 4K 120, also fantastic. Having the better autofocus system and real-time tracking. Now, if you're short on funds, what I recommend is either sell your current 6000 camera and put it towards buying the 6700, or you can put that towards new lenses, or you could even keep the camera and just use it as a studio cam, just like as I'm doing here now. The funny thing is, when I was recording the B-roll for this video, it was with the 6400 using the Sigma 24-70 or the Sigma 56mm with either the short stash or mist filter. And again, when shooting the B-roll for the 6400, I was using the 6700. So you tell me if you could tell a difference between the two, because I think it's definitely the lenses that make the difference here. So let me know in the comments down below what camera and what lenses you're using. And if you want to learn more about drones, photography and everything in between, subscribe for future videos. Stay tuned for next week and we'll cover some street photography with the Sony A6700. And if you haven't seen last week's video and why people are losing their drones in Cyprus, then check this video out here.